Well, this past weekend, of course, the Orioles celebrated the 30th anniversary of 21-31. It was great to be there. What an electric night it was from start to finish. And part of that was seeing this guy back in a bit of a more formal capacity with the Orioles for the first time. He, of course, is a Ford Frick Award winner and part of both the Baseball and National Radio Halls of Fame. He is the great Jon Miller, and he is back with us now here on GCR. Jon, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you as always. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Absolutely, and what a memorable night it was. I was very honored and pleased to have been invited to the event in the first place. They told me that part of the deal was they gave Cal a suite and said, and give us a list of the people you want to invite. So, I was on that list, so I was very grateful to Cal, and it was really cool being able to catch up with Cal, and then to share that amazing ninth inning comeback. I hear how the crowd was just rocking the ballpark, and the crowd was responding the way you would expect a crowd to respond for a team with a chance to go to the postseason. That this was a key game in their bid to win a division title and whatnot. So, which is just not the case. So I really salute the Oriole fans, and I think maybe part of the inspiration for that whole thing that brought the big crowd there in the first place, but also with all those great former Orioles and Ken Griffey Jr. and all that whole list of people that came out on the field and got big ovations. I heard my first Eddie, Eddie chant for almost 30 years, so that was kind of cool. But then that seemed to inspire that, because the place was just rocking. I made a video when Yamamoto just needed one more out for the no-hitter. I thought, I should start my video camera. I'm in a good spot here up in this suite and sit right behind Ken Griffey Jr. and his wife, and I'll maybe have the video of either breaking up the no-hitter or the final out of the no-hitter, and then I got it going just in time to capture the home run hit by Jackson Holliday, and then the crowd was just so raucous and loud that I kept making videos with each batter subsequently, cool. And I've been sending that video of the game-winning hit to everybody that I know, because the place was just rocking. It's still exciting for me just to look back at the video of it. So,
Jon, I think what you
and I don't think there's ever been a game like that before.
Yeah, I think what you allude to is we all know that a no-hitter is historic, right? Because we've used the word no-hitter a lot in our lives. But I think what ended up happening, and trust me, I was like many. Once Jackson Holliday hit the home run, I looked at my kids and my wife. I said, all right, we can go. We're not going to see history tonight. The Orioles are going to lose. And thank God we didn't. Thank God we stuck around to watch. But I think it speaks to just the joy of baseball, that legitimately you go to a game, you don't know what you're going to witness. And my kids are 10 and 8, and this is a core memory now for them, witnessing that on Saturday night. They'll talk about being at that game for years, despite the fact that the Orioles aren't going to win a World Series this year.
Yeah, that's very true, and I think it is one of those nights. But I was trying to figure out just two down, nobody on.
Yeah.
And then he hits the home run. And sometimes players will tell you, managers, pitchers, that because that ball almost stayed in the ballpark. It was, and for a moment it looked like it did stay in the ballpark. The right fielder played the carom and threw it back in, but the umpire was signaling home run. But sometimes it's better if it had been a double, because now you've got a possible rally started. Right. Yeah, so that a solo homer, ironically, can be a rally killer. And so now you still have two down and nobody on as they go to their veteran shutdown reliever, Blake Trinan. But then the next guy hits the double, and then Trinan didn't seem to be able to throw a strike after that. It was pretty uncanny, and then they finally went to the left-hander, and I didn't quite understand what was going on there, because he had the left-hander ready in the bullpen, and the left-hander, I guess it was Cowser was up, and he didn't bring in the left-hander for Cowser, the left-handed hitter, And he walked, and that forced in a run. It also moved the possible winning run into scoring position. And now with a right-handed hitter coming up, now he brought in the left-hander. And, of course, Emmanuel Rivera, probably the greatest hit of his career in that instance. So what a game and what a finish. But I don't believe that there's ever been a game, 2 outs of a no-hitter, nobody on base, and a 3-run lead. There have been a couple times a team has come from behind, but I think it's like 1 run down in that spot, and but not 3 runs with 2 down and nobody on. Are you kidding me? So it might have been one of a kind in that regard.
Jon Miller is with us here on GCR. Jon, you have done just about everything there is to do in this game. You have called many World Series. You have, called Barry Bonds breaking home run records. I feel like there are still young people that don't understand what an American phenomenon 2131 was, how it went beyond baseball, beyond Baltimore. It seemed to touch everyone, maybe even globally. Can you put into words what that night has meant to you in your career and why it still resonates the way it does with so many of us to this point in our lives?
I think Chris Berman and I were talking about this. They introduced Berman, they introduced me, and we were out on that orange carpet while they were introducing everybody else. And I noticed as I got out there that they had the banners up there on the warehouse. The 2131, which was, wow, that brings me back to that night. But and Boomer said, and the thing is that night until the game became an official game, it was 2130 that read up on that warehouse. And that's an iconic number that we of that era grew up with. There were certain numbers that when you were a baseball fan since you were a kid, that those were icons, and you knew those numbers. And 2130 was sort of at the top of that list. Lou Gehrig's record that was probably never going to be broken, consecutive games played. And 714, the Babe's home run total, which, and we had already seen Henry Aaron pass on by that number, and 60 home runs in a season. And Maris passed that number by. But we knew all those numbers. The Ted Williams hit 406, the last 400 hitter in history, and so on and so forth. The iconic numbers. But I think since that time, kids grow up in a different way now. And, there have been so many guys who've hit a lot of home runs and way more than 60. It's been kind of hard to keep up with. In fact, I asked Brady Anderson Saturday night because at that time, Brady could recite the whole list of the top home run hitters in history. He knew them all. And but I said to Brady, I said, what about do you still know that? He said, no, those numbers have been passed now a few times, and I really don't know any of them now. So, and part of that has to do with the kind of things that you retain as a kid, because you don't have all that. Your mind is not so cluttered with all that stuff when you're 12 years old or 10 years old. So we got a little more stuff jangling around in our heads by this time at this age. But anyway, so I think that's just a fact of the matter, and it goes beyond the greats of the game like Cal. And I think anybody knows who Cal was and that he was an Orioles great. But as my friend Hank Field told me, who used to keep the out-of-town scoreboard for us in the radio booth at Memorial Stadium and then at Camden Yards. He said sometimes he'll meet with young people because he used to perform marriages. Hank was a former priest, and he would tell the kids that he used to be a priest and this and that. And he also used to keep the scoreboard in the booth for Jon Miller. And the kids are like, who? So I haven't been there in a long, long time, and I understand that, and so I think that's just the way it is. But as the passage of time, and I really salute the Orioles for having the special night for Cal and the fans for all turning out, because I think it's important to keep that memory out there, and even for the newer generation of people who weren't around when that all took place.
John, as much as Saturday night was about Cal, and it was, for a lot of us, it was really special to see you in videos made by the Orioles and on the field. And we all remember that, unfortunately, that's not something that's happened a lot in recent years. While I know you've done games and you've been around, we haven't seen that formal relationship between you and the team. Did that mean anything to you beyond, I know you wanted to be there for Cal, but did that resonate with you that it was maybe a way to perhaps reconnect with Baltimore, the Orioles, the fans, all of those things?
Well, it really did. I mean, for me personally, it was just I mean, I really wanted to be there because that was such a huge baseball record that I really wanted to be there, not just to celebrate with Cal, but because it was such a highlight to have been there that night in the first place. And but then the crowd was so into it. I really, if I had it to do over again, they gave me that little moment at the mic,
Yeah.
and my job was just to introduce Cal. But when Eddie Murray got introduced and the crowd started chanting, Eddie, Eddie, just like the old days. It was like, wow, we're going back 30 years now. And that was so cool. I really thought that I would like to have asked the fans, like, how many of those of you here tonight were here 30 years ago?
Sure.
Because almost everybody was also there 30 years ago? Because a lot of things can happen in 30 years. I mean, a lot of people aren't even around any longer, or maybe not even able to come with the aging process and to make it to the ballpark one way or the other. So I kind of wished, I thought that was a moment that I let slip by. But at the same time, I did have the story about the '83 World Series, my first year, and the Orioles, with the Orioles, and Mike Schmidt, the Giants, or the Orioles just shut him down, 1 for 20 in that series. And in Philadelphia, they started booing him because he'd come up in a big spot and strike out or pop out or whatever, and they'd boo him. That's just Philadelphia. And he said after one of those games, says, well, that's just Philadelphia. But I know in Baltimore, if Eddie Murray was 1 for 20, the next time he came to the plate, they introduce him, and the fans would start chanting, Eddie,
Yep.
Eddie. And so it was too good. It was too much right there, a groove fastball down the middle for me to take, I guess, that here it was 30 years later, and they're still chanting Eddie, just like it was all those years ago. And I saluted them for that, and I just wanted to sort of weigh in on that. So it was just great for me personally to hear Eddie Murray get such a great greeting. And everybody who got introduced got a big ovation from the fans. So it seemed like they just remembered all those former Oriole greats. And Ken Griffey Jr. never played for the Orioles, and they gave him a huge ovation as well.
Just wanted to be there, which is awesome. But what about for you, though, John? Like, I know you're not one to make it about yourself, but to hear the crowd react the way that it did for you here, I mean, we're talking about decades later at this point, since you've been in San Francisco. How did that resonate with you, and what did that mean to you?
Well, I know that it was the last thing in my mind because I had just gotten into town. I did the game Friday night in St. Louis with the Giants, and I was also going to be taking a 7 a.m. flight Sunday morning back to St. Louis and do the 1 o'clock game on the radio that day. So I was in the middle of a pretty intense flight schedule there, and just trying to keep up with it. And as soon as I got to the hotel, I went to the room and changed clothes, and then we all went over to the ballpark. And it was really cool seeing all those guys. They had a green room set up where we could all gather before the game and to see Cal and have a chance to talk with all these different people that I hadn't seen in a while. And now we're just trying to get it straight. They're telling us how it's going to be orchestrated. The rain came through. The original plan for the chairs we were all supposed to go out and sit in and whatnot, that was gone with the rain and the new thing. So I was just trying to keep that straight, and it really was the last thing on my mind. because also the story about people saying that they knew me back in the day, and people saying who, and I think that's very true. And I think that the Orioles broadcasts are outstanding. I think Kevin Brown and Ben McDonald and Jim Paul, that's a great crew, one of the best in the game. And Brett Hollander, Jeff Arnold on the radio. I've gotten to know them a little bit, and I think they do an excellent job as well. So I think the Orioles are in great shape, and I'm just something from some way back in the day. But when I got introduced, I went out and the first thing I saw was the 21-31 on the because we hadn't been inside the ballpark yet that night. That's the first look I had in it, and then I realized, wow, they're giving me a pretty nice ovation here. So I wanted to acknowledge that and tip my cap and whatnot. And it was very heartwarming for me, and I thank everybody for the gesture, and I'll never forget it.
I'll ask if there were to be more, right? If there was maybe to be a celebration of Jon Miller. I've said publicly I would like to see you go into the Orioles Hall of Fame, John, because you are the voice of my childhood and the memories that I associate with the team. Is that something that like you'd be up to do maybe more things with the Orioles, knowing you have a job, you're still working, you have a team that you are associated with, but are those things that you would be willing to consider if they were to be in front of you in the coming years?
Well, I mean, anything like that it's always a great honor, and I got that the Frick Award, the award that they give to a broadcaster at the Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, and I think I would join everyone who's ever been given that honor as saying that's one of the great awards you could ever get as a baseball broadcaster, and everybody calls you a Hall of Famer after the fact, and the first thing I always like Willie Mays called me after I got that award. And I just right away told Willie, said, "No, Willie, this is a thrill that you're calling me, but I do want to make sure that you understand that I know this does not put me in the Hall of Fame. You're a Hall of Fame. You're what the Hall of Fame is all about, and I know that this is just a cool award, and I'm grateful to get it." But and Willie said, "Well, I really appreciate you saying that. On the other hand, from now on, everybody's going to call you a Hall of Famer. You better just get used to it." So I always thought I would kind of tell that story because coming from Willie Mays, I was like, all right, I understand. I will. Yeah. So,
correct. Right. If you say so, 100%.
Yeah. But I think, truly, I felt like, it was a great honor, but I also felt sort of sheepish about it because I thought, man, just being able to do this job for a living that I really aspired to when I was a kid, I looked at it as the greatest job that anybody could ever get, and to have been able to get the job in the first place, and then to have been able to do it all these years. My first big league broadcast was over 51 years ago, and I was 22 years old. I was like a little kid. And how the hell did that happen? But that's its own reward and award. And now to get honored beyond that, it just felt like hard to say that. Oh yes, I really deserve that, because I feel like every day I get to go to the ballpark and get paid to do the job that I always want to do. That's already an incredible award. So I've been getting an award on a daily basis for all these years as it is. So if the Orioles said something along those lines, obviously that would be a great honor. And at the same time, I've gotten a lot of different awards over the years, and have always been very grateful about it. But at the same time, you sometimes you wonder, man, it's like they keep giving me these awards, and when's the other shoe going to drop? Is it? Am I bound? Is the universe about to turn its back on me and turn upside down on me, or what? So, but anyway, I think the Orioles, to see all those guys, you realize what a great history. I always remember Mel Allen back sometime in the '80s, and the Yankees had brought him back to do some of their games on the, I guess, the MSG network at that time. And we're sitting and talking about the old days. The Orioles were still playing at Memorial Stadium. And so I'm asking him about that Yankee dynasty that he was so much a part of, because he did the Yankee games going back into the 1939. He was there when Lou Gehrig gave his luckiest man on the face of the earth speech. And, he went through all those incredible Yankee teams. He says, well, that's long gone now, but the team that's most like that now is this one, the Orioles. And at that time, the Orioles had the longest stretch of winning seasons of any team in history other than those Yankees. So that's the franchise and the history that I walked into in 1983. So it is a special franchise, an historic franchise. And when you see that comeback the other night, you also realize, man, they're building something here right now. I know it's been a bad year this year, but I think they've got so much talent already here and still to come that this could be the start of something big 4 years to come for the Orioles.
John, there were a lot of mistakes made by this organization for a long period of time, and I'm saying this, you don't have to say it. Not having Jon Miller here in Baltimore was one of them, and I know we lost Davey Johnson this weekend, and not having Davey Johnson around longer was one of them, and so I think for a lot of us, just seeing you here and associated with the Orioles provides maybe a little bit of hope that perhaps this franchise will not make as many mistakes moving forward and will right things and do things the right way and honor the people that deserve to be honored. And that's me editorializing. I know that's not a question. I'm not putting it to you, but I hope that that it really did mean a lot to a lot of us, certainly of a certain age, that you were back because you never should have been gone in the first place.
Well, I appreciate the sentiment, and I will say, for the sake of transparency, that although I had always aspired as a baseball broadcaster to be in a place for a long period of time, like Chuck Thompson had been, or Ernie Harwell in Detroit, or Jack Buck in St. Louis, Harry Carey in St. Louis, and then Chicago, and there were a lot of them that Vin Scully with the Dodgers, and that's what I aspired to, and I thought finally maybe Baltimore was going to be my place. I was there 14 seasons, and so I was not happy about sort of being shown the door, but at the same time,
it worked out okay for
I
you.
look back. I look back now, and it's my last year in Baltimore was 29 years ago, and I've been with the Giants through a renaissance of Giants baseball, the team I grew up with, and their new ballpark, which has changed everything out here, and I'm grateful that I was too dumb to realize that was going to be the best thing that could have possibly happened to me was coming out here. So because I didn't want it to work out that way, but I'm grateful that it did. Even going back, I came to Baltimore hoping to have stayed in Boston, and the station was going broke and defaulted on the rights payments to the Red Sox, and so then they were going to change stations, and so that was what opened the door for me to go to Baltimore. I got this offer to go to Baltimore, and I thought, man, I really wanted to stay in Boston and keep going to Fenway Park, and that's what I was aspiring to there. And the greatest possible thing that could have happened to me at that time was going to Baltimore, and I was too dumb to know that until I actually did it and saw how great that worked out. So anyway, so I've been kind of dumb luck, I guess, is a way to put it for me over the years. And for me, the Giants have. It's not only been home, and then I was going to the ballpark, and there's Willie Mays, there's Willie McCovey, all these guys are the icons of my youth, and the Giants have been great to me, and it's exciting to see for me what they're doing right now, trying to come out of nowhere, just like the Orioles in the ninth inning on Saturday night, to see if they can actually somehow overtake the Mets and at a huge, unlikely odds, make it into the postseason this year. So anyway, that's and that's the part that the fun. I did the ESPN national game for 21 years with Joe Morgan. A lot of great memories. It was a great opportunity. And who has a run like that in primetime national TV, 21 years in a row? So I was very fortunate in that regard. But I always kept the local job because that's the real fun
Yep.
for a broadcaster, is watching that local story unfold day after day, the ups and the downs of it. And I've been able to do it all this time. So anyway, I'd like to be able to say, see you in October. At this point, the Giants are the team that has that.
Yeah.
It's not a good chance, but they're still alive and with that opportunity.
Jon, we hope that we'll be seeing more of you at some point in some way for some reason in Baltimore. That's what we're going to hope for. And it was a thrill to see you on Saturday. Truly appreciate you taking the time for us today. Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that, and it truly was a thrill for me and to the people who gave me such a warm welcome that night. I'm forever grateful and will never forget it.